Join the AFN crew as we hit shallow water estuary and bay waters in search of big trevally. Then head to the bustle of the city as we sample some of Sydney's rock fishing. Fraser Island provides many fishing options. A truly special one is to hit the estuary flats and sight fish for big trevally. Adrian and I showed just how much fun can be had in the Fraser Island shallows.
Mate, I just cast it out about 3 metres ahead of the school. They swam into it and I popped it twice and it just went crunch. Look at them just here.
Benna, now we're coming together. The fish are trying to get back together. Yeah, that's it. Keep your rod where it is now. That's it. Keep your rod where it is now. I'm coming to you. Coming to you.
Have a look at them on off the bow.
We've got a little bit of an issue at the moment that sometimes when you hook school fish, big school fish, they tend to like hanging out together. What they will sometimes do is try to come back to regroup. And when you are fishing with braid, there can be a bit of an issue because braid does come together and wrap, it cuts itself so quickly. So if you are, and once again, it's a benefit of using braid that you can see. Adrian's got a nice yellow braid, I've got a nice visual red braid so we can see where those are in the water. It means we can guide our fish different directions. Powerful fish. What we're doing at the moment, we're using a lot of rod angle just to try and keep these fish coming back towards us. It's in shallow water, they run quick. You just don't want to panic too much. Use your rod, it's your shock absorber. Oh, so she's got to slap eventually. It takes some doing, these fish in the shallows. Now we're chasing we're hooked up with 4 to 6 kilo fish at the moment, and on 10-pound braid, 4 to 6 kilo rods. They take some doing, but it's one of the beauties of coming and chasing fish over the flats is that they're great sport. The visual aspect's amazing. I don't think you can beat it, being able to see fish, target them, put a lure in front of them, see them eat it, and then watch them run off while your drag screams. I think it's nearly as good as spin fishing can get. We're just working our rods at the moment to keep these guys apart. Oh, it's big head shakes, they're powerful fish.
Big bands are coming
through. Oh, look at this. Catching these fish, they're impressive sports fish, but catching them was relatively simple. We were really just using our eyes and cruising over the shallows to find patches of feeding fish. And then we were able to spot a group of fish. Tails were flicking up out of the water. There was a big patch of fish, you could spot them easily because we've got Polaroid sunglasses on our heads, which makes the job so much easier. And then it was a case of working out which direction those fish were going. We cast a little soft plastic ahead of them so that we didn't spook them. And as they got within range of it, we just gave it a slightest little hop and you could see the whole chemistry of that group change. They knew food was on the order and they all charged in, and basically Adrian and I were both hooked up very quickly. And we're now getting tired. Big fella's starting to puff, I can hear him. I'm going to help you tail that while I keep this one in the water, Adrian. Just wear him out first. I mean, the beauty of what we're doing here today is that these flats that we're fishing, or when I talk about flats, I mean the shallow water. These flats are full of brim, flathead, whiting, and we've got different outfits ready to chase whatever we see. The beauty, we obviously come up to Harvey Bay with a good mate of mine, Adrian Lindsay, and the beauty about Harvey Bay is that in amongst those brim, whiting and flathead, you also get some other species like golden trevally, giant trevally, diamonds and all those other critters. So these techniques of just hopping plastics in front of fish that you can see in the shallows, You can use as much on your flathead bream and whiting as you can on these guys, and it's all good fun. Oh, look at that there. There's Golden's still swimming around the boat. Mine's just got angry again. Go, bring yours here. This is what happens when you've got two blokes in a boat and you get a double hook up.
This is what we came here for, Goldens on the flats of Harvey Bay. What I did was, we saw the fish schooling up, we cast 3 metres in front of them, double hop, and they just climbed all over it and it was game on. Lives to fight another day.
Big key when you're chasing big fish on the flats is not to panic. There's not a lot of sharp stuff they can often do on the flats, and I think sometimes people get a bit panicky when they've got a big fish that's taking line quickly, is to go a little bit hard on it. But if you can go gently, just wear these fish down, you'll win a lot of your battles. Oh, it's just an awesome fish. Little 3-inch plastic. A lot of these fish, we're up in the shallows, and there's one big reason that fish are going to risk getting eaten to come up into shallow water. It's because there's lots of food there. They know they're coming up there to get a good feed. And particularly, you'll find lots of shallows include areas where there's worm beds and yabby beds. So there's a reason today that we're using soft plastics that look a bit shrimpy and a bit yabby. So they've got lots of little legs hanging off them, is because they're probably going to look a lot like the food source that these guys are up here eating. And I guess the evidence so far is that we're probably matching what they're eating. A lot of anglers travel a long way to come and catch big fish on the flats like Goldens and permit and other species of trevally and queenfish. The fly guys love it, but you can also get into it with the spin gear. You don't have to necessarily, if you're not confident with the fly side of things, you're still in the game, because with a light spin gear and chucking soft plastics or other artificials, you can still get involved in some great sight fishing. Heavy fish. These fish are good 5-6 kilo fish, which on 4 to 6 kilo rods, 10-pound braid, and I think I've got a 10-pound leader, actually downsized overnight, because I thought, well, fish might be a bit shy this morning with a bright sunlit day, not a lot of wind. Sometimes if the fish are spooky, you're not necessarily getting the bites. Sometimes going slightly lighter in your leader can get those fish to bite when they might not otherwise do it. Oh. That sucks.
Today we're using TT's 1/4 ounce jig head and a 3/0 heavy gauge hook with the new Z-Man shrimps in 3-inch. Rigging in plastic is important because watching it swim through the water, you're trying to imitate a bait fish. I'll basically show you quickly how to do it now. All I'm doing is measuring the distance where I want the hook to protrude out. You're taking it in through the top, feeding it through to where you measured, bringing it out. There we are, guys, a nicely rigged Z-Man shrimp plastic.
There. Hang on. Cast up here. Let me go. Okay, we're on.
You go first.
We're on. Yep. How good is that? I'm choking on it.
Yeah, and I'll just come straight in.
Oh yeah. You got him interested. I'll just catch up to them. They'll eat it. Good fun. Big part of getting this retrieve right is to make the lure choice look like a wounded part of the diet that these guys are up here eating. To do that, you've got to put your lure far enough ahead of them. If you land it too close to them and they get any sign that there's a splash or something not right, tend to find that you'll spook these fish. So try and pick up the direction they're going in, and that's the benefit in using good eyewear to spot these fish, see which way they're going, and then plan your attack. Get a good cast. I like to put it 3 to 10 metres ahead of the fish, and so it's sitting there, stationary on the bottom before they get somewhere near it, and then when they're within that metre mark, give it that little twitch. Then it looks like they've startled some part of the diet, and they're straight onto it, and then their body language tells you basically when to strike. A lot of times, we're not really feeling that bite. We're just seeing that fish suddenly charge onto your plastic. They quiver, sometimes their fins go up, and you can almost guess that they've got it. In that case, we're striking. And as you can see, I think our timing's not too far out today, Adrian.
No,
we're coming home with a few home runs.
We are. One of the best tools we're using today is the Spotter's photochromatic lens. Now what this lens does is it darkens and lightens to prevailing light conditions. So today, beautiful hot sunny day, the UV light is that strong that it will then darken your lens. If cloud cover comes over, your UV light is less, your lens will lighten. So this lens is always enhancing your vision. Other advantage of the penetrator lens is that it filters up to 92% of visible blue light. Now in the light spectrum, the blue light is not absorbed by the human eye. It sits on the retina, hence it causes your eye fatigue, your eye strain and your headache. So this vaporizes glare and allows us to penetrate into the water to see these schooling fish.
There's a reason I got you to say that, because I can't say that big photo, whatever word you said it was. Photochromatic.
Photochromatic lens.
So there you go, mate. We're certainly paying the dividends today. Big part of fishing the flats is sometimes timing your run. By that I mean working out when you want to most fish the flats, and it stands to reason that there's a pretty good rule to follow in terms of the way Adrian and I usually approach it anyway, and it's that running tide where the fish are going to want to get up over those flats, get to new areas of water that they can't otherwise get to. When they can get up into those areas, they're most likely to be up there feeding. And what we typically find anyway is that when you do find fish in the shallow water, they are usually feeding. It's up to you then just to use some good angling to try and catch those, but time your tides. Try and get that from the start of that running up to the top of the tide. You're most likely to find your fish up in the flats and happily feeding. Oh no, what's going on here? Something started chasing him. Oh, get up in him. Oh no, there's a big shark on him.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh no, he's trying to hide with him. My fish has just found a dugong or something like that. Maybe a doogie. My fish has just found some cover in a dugong. Look at him. That's bizarre. These days we've certainly got the tools of the trade to help us with this style of fishing. We've got things like electrics that are remote driven. You can put them into autopilot, but you can sit there and basically I can just control this boat. So if I was out here fishing on my own, I could basically sit out here, I can do the whole thing on my own. I can spot these fish, I can catch them, I can control the boat to wherever I want to be. Fishing is just getting so much easier these days. It's just a pleasure. Come in and tail him. There we have it. You can see that these guys are just made to fish on the flats. They've got these big rubbery lips which they protrude. You can see this big snub nose that he's got. He's made for just coming up on those flats, chucking that nose in there and sifting around and chasing out food items. And then as soon as they come out, that big mouth opens and he sucks it in. They're beautiful golden trevally caught on the flats. Hopping little Z-Man plastics, spotted from way to go, and it's an adrenaline rush. You've got to get out and do this at some stage. Get him back in the water. Okay, cast, long cast over there, long cast there. Long cast, long cast. Perfect, perfect. Wait on it, wait on it, wait on it. Twitch it. Twitch it, leave it, leave it. Yep, you're on. Beautiful, beautiful. How good's that? Sydney's local waters provide surprisingly good fishing considering the area supports a big population. We follow a young crew of anglers as they hit the city headlands and spin for popular species.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky enough to have a couple of mates to go fishing with and that. It's great being able to get up early in the morning and when it's still dark and head to your favourite fishing spot. And like this morning, we headed down the trail while it was still dark and got to the end of the trail and the sun was just starting to come up over the horizon, and we got to see all the beautiful lights from the city and that before we made our descent down to the ledge.
With the rock booty, I think it is one of the most essential things to bring on the rocks, just because, you know, you could be down on a day like today, the rocks look not too slippery, but then once you get out where the wash and the water's been with the tides, it'll start to get very slippery. So if you hook up with a big fish, more than 9 times out of 10 you'll be going water skiing without a good pair of these. So I always recommend bring a good pair of cleats with you onto the rocks. One of the first things I always pack is my rock cleats.
So just been spinning off the rocks down here this morning, come across a nice little bonnie, basically just spinning some metals along the surface, trying to pick up a few pelagic species. Not a little bad bonnie, quite common for these parts.
This outfit that I have here is particularly heavy. I'm actually running 37 kilo braid and 100 pound leader. It's designed primarily for larger kingfish that can sometimes come through the area. I don't normally catch much, but if it is a fish, it's normally a good one, which makes it quite rewarding. Now what I've got connected to my 100 pound leader here is 2 7/0 hooks snelled together, and I've just used a couple of rubber bands to keep them nice and tight to the guy. It makes it really streamlined and helps it to swim through the water quite nicely. When targeting large kingfish, we employ rods similar to what the guys would use up on the Coral Sea for GTs. Heavy duty spin reels capable of putting out 10 kilos plus of drag. Rods that are sort of 8 to 9 foot long, designed for working, you know, poppers anywhere from 80 to 200 grams. Let's see how it goes. Most kingfish around Sydney will laugh at any sort of light tackle that you have, so we use these heavy outfits, get the fish on the rocks, and it also makes the smaller ones fit for release, and we tend to land the bigger ones.
It was about 6:15 in the morning.
Folks, just jerking this minnow through the wash has resulted in a lovely Australian salmon. These fish are relatively abundant for most of the year and at times can be found in football field sized schools.
So one of the biggest keys to rock fishing is safety. There's two main things that I like to do when I come down to the rocks, and that's always never turn your back on the ocean and always have a good friend and keep your eyes on him, and vice versa. So you know, if one of you go in, there's always someone there at the end of the day to, you know, help you out. For now, I've just decided to put on a little metal, a 40 gram. I just like to cast them out, let them sink, you know, 5 to 10 seconds, and then just really retrieve it and crank it as fast as I can back into the rocks. And you know, it seems to be rather productive around here in Sydney. So we'll see how we go. So I don't think you could ask for much of a better view, you know, just come fishing, have the cityscape in your foreground, and I don't think you could ask for much more fishing out of Sydney. Fishing photography, I don't know where to start, but you know, a photo paints a million words, and I think my aim of fishing photography is to just come in and revitalise fishing magazines with fresh new photos and looks. And you know, not just from Australia, from places worldwide, you know, Asia, South Pacific, just anywhere we can go and we can access the fish. I would love to be there with my camera, documenting that and letting other people see the joys that Chris and I get to go through fishing.